I think we've all been sold a lie. As parents, we're taught that discipline involves a lot of unpleasantness, a lot of timeouts. But I'm here to tell you that there is a different way. I don't know if this is what it's officially called, but I'm calling it time in. And as a mom of 3, having experienced 3 fairly recent toddlerhoods and still going through the 3rd one, I feel like I can speak to what really works for us when it comes to disciplining toddlers. Before we jump into the video, hello, my name is Julie. I coach moms, helping them to go from feeling very overwhelmed and not sure what they're really doing in their parenting to reconnecting with their inner voice, regaining confidence, and raising healthy, happy, respectful, and most importantly, resilient children. If that is something that's interesting to you, make sure you click the link down below because I have a freebie that will help you with your calm mornings, and I can't wait to share it with you. But enough of that, let's jump into why you clicked on this video, which is how to not have to do timeouts with your children but still maintain healthy boundaries and discipline. Gentle parenting, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know if it really requires a name per se, but this is what I do and this is what has worked for us as a family of 5. My husband also travels a ton for work. In fact, he's gone this whole week, and my little 3-year-old, she got the memo. She's showing up with all of the resistance, pushing boundaries like they do, and I want to share with you some things that have really helped me in these situations when I could easily fly off the handle, feel out of control, have a lot of regret about shouting at her or saying something that I didn't mean, and how you can stay calm and controlled in these really difficult situations. Stay tuned for the rest of the video because I'm going to share a real life example of something that just happened yesterday, in fact, to show you how I put these techniques to use. But before we do that, I want to just explain what things look like when I am doing my job as the parent and things are going well. Now, I'm not perfect and sometimes I do lose my cool and I instantly regret it, but when things are going well, this is what it looks like. Number 1, a lot of people will talk about this with parenting, but it is your mindset, and specifically this is having the deep knowledge that I know this will pass. In a greater sense, this phase will eventually come to an end where my daughter is no longer a little toddler pushing boundaries and is a bit more rational. And in a literal sense, she's not going to scream and kick and get frustrated forever. I know I need to tolerate the discomfort of whatever my child is doing. Usually she's just crying and telling me that she wants something that I've said she can't have more of or we can't do. But occasionally, maybe she's hitting or throwing something. That's pretty rare, but I think that really depends on your child, and every child is so different. But just to get, you into the scene, it's usually screaming, which is very uncomfortable. I do not like it. I do not enjoy the overstimulation, but I know that this is her way of expressing frustration. I know that she does not have the emotional maturity and capacity to think about the situation in a way that I'm trying to convey to her. Also to say, I know this too shall pass. Number 2, I know that my mental state and how I am showing up to this situation is absolutely crucial for how it's going to end up. I view myself as the leader of the family, especially when my husband is not there. I am the sole leader, and I remember reading in a book, I think it was Simplicity Parenting. I'll put a picture up here. I remember from that book taking the analogy of a parent being the captain of a ship, and that has never left me. The fact that as parents and as leaders of a family, we need to be calm, cool and collected was not something I'd really considered before. I think when I first became a parent, it was easy for me to fall into that victim mentality of all of this stuff is happening to me. Never mind that I had chosen this life and chosen to have this baby. But the fact that I was not in control of my emotions, or that my emotions didn't dictate the vibes, that hadn't occurred to me, I think, until I read this book. And I think it's a very important shift that parents need to make. I want you to picture yourself in a situation where maybe you've been a child and have experienced your parents arguing or fighting, when you've gone out for dinner and another couple that you're with or you go on vacation, they are fighting or quarreling with each other. And how awkward it is to be that third wheel, to be the one who's on the outside when the authority is kind of falling apart. And then imagine yourself as a child who doesn't fully understand the context of the situation, doesn't have the skills to weather the situation, doesn't fully understand what's going on. and how uncomfortable that feels. Now, I can't remember what it feels like as a child to witness this, but I can imagine that if your leader, aka your mom or dad, the person that you rely on literally to survive, is losing their mind and not behaving in the most mature fashion, how that can make you feel super unsettled and uncomfortable, and how that's going to just make the whole situation worse. And when you lose your mind to an irrational toddler, by the way, thinks they are being very rational, if they were able to kind of extricate themselves from that situation, it's kind of silly, because you think there's this little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 2-year-old that's having a tantrum and you're being rattled by this, where you have all the power in the relationship at the end of the day. It's really them that are vulnerable. They're just bold and ballsy and they don't think of it like that. It's them that you're modeling this unstable behavior to if you now lose your cool. But also in my case, when you have older children who are now learning more and bearing witness to their leader, their mom, their dad crumbling in front of them, how insecure that is going to make them feel, because now they have this interpretation of mom and dad aren't strong. And when I have big emotions, which inevitably they will, I don't know if I can take it to them. And really, at the end of the day, as a parent, you want your children to be able to come to you and present anything. The worst thing that can happen as a parent is your children hiding things from you because they don't think you can handle it, and then things going wildly wrong, and all you needed was for them to tell you that something was up, but they didn't feel confident in your abilities to deal with it. And that starts from young. And if you can't handle a 3-year-old's temper tantrum, how are you going to handle a 15-year-old, an 18-year-old? How are you going to handle real issues that children and teenagers find themselves in? And then number 3, when I'm handling a situation in the appropriate manner, I take my child out of a situation. So this is not the same as distracting them. I kind of think it's almost disrespectful to think that you can distract a child from their pain. I mean, you have to consider the context, but I want them to be able to face tricky things and to be able to process their emotions, because if we just now distract them through a screen or a lollipop or whatever the mode is, how are they learning to deal with their emotions if we're just stuffing them down, right? Isn't that one of the things of society that we all struggle with? People just stuffing down the emotions, and then out it comes in bursts. The energy has to come out somewhere, whether that's road rage or punching someone in the face when when you're older. So I don't want to distract them, but I take them out of a situation if I can, physically pick them up, give them a hug, talk to them, so that we kind of just break the spell, is kind of what I call it. Like, I feel like when they're having big emotions, when they're having some kind of tantrum, it's like they're possessed a little bit and they are so hysterical, they need to calm down. And sometimes just sort of whisking them away out of it helps them to just gather their thoughts. So at the top of this video, I said why you don't need a timeout. So the way that I understand a timeout is you take a child and you put them in their room. You say, go to your room, you're in timeout. Or there's a naughty step. There's some kind of separation from the parent. And I'm specifically talking about toddlers in this because older children are maybe a little different and maybe they do need their own personal space, and you will really know what is best for your child. So I don't want you to lose that intuition that you have. I want you to trust your gut. But what I have found is that we don't want a time out. We want a time in, which means I hug my child, I take them somewhere, and I stay with them. So we can both go to timeout together. We can both go to your room, or we can both sit on the naughty step. I wouldn't use the term naughty step, but whatever you want to call it, just to calm down. If you're at a party and they want an extra piece of cake and they're having a complete breakdown, try and taking them out of that situation so that you can just be heard, or even you don't say anything. There's no point giving your child a whole lecture when they're so hysterically crying that they can't hear you or process anything that you're saying. Funny story I remember, because just related to children not being able to express themselves emotionally. When my son, who's my first child, was 2 or 3 years old, I feel like we taught him how to say frustrated, or we taught him what frustrated meant. And it's quite a big word for a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. I can't remember how old he was. And obviously he's still learning to speak, and the way he would say it was so cute, but he would say things like, I'm frustrated. And it was so funny because it's not a word that you expect a little kid to know how to use, or And it was just something powerful to give him some tools of how to express himself. Now, emotions, there are many more different kinds than frustrated, but it's a good first step. But I just remember thinking, like, it makes it a lot easier when they can start to express themselves. But that is not always the case. And when they are kind of flying off the wall, going crazy, they are not going to be able to pull out the big words like I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed, I'm concerned, all of these things. So just bear that in mind. I also want to go into some of the things that I do for myself, because at the end of the day, most of the time you can only really control yourself. Things that I do to help me be more tantrum resistant. Let's get to those at the end of the video. Before that, I wanted to tell you a story that happened to me yesterday that might help illustrate how I deal with these situations and might help you as well. So, as I said, my husband is away. He's away for the whole week. So I have that kind of like looming on me, which is fine. We're getting used to it. He goes away a lot. He travels a lot for work. So it's not unusual for us, but it's still challenging in its own way. And one of the things that's very tricky is that my older child has a tennis practice in the evening, and usually when my husband's here, it's very close by, it's in the neighborhood, he will go and pick him up, and I will put the toddler to bed. So his tennis practice ends at 7:30, which she's 3, nearly 4. This is prime bedtime. And it's really tricky because I need to take her with me to go and pick up my son if my husband is away. So we had dinner, the 2 girls, my son is playing tennis, the 2 girls and I, we had dinner. My toddler did not really want to eat. I've also found that forcing her to eat is a silly proposition. You kind of just, this is what's been provided for you and this is how it's going to be. I don't want to make food punitive. So I tend to not say, well, you're not going to have any dessert until you eat 5 bites. I could maybe structure it like, we're not going to eat sweets for dinner. So you need to eat some food and then we can talk. Anyway, whatever. So she had a little bit of, it was like pasta with cheese sauce kind of thing. She's on her own mission. So I never know what she's going to want to eat. She had a few bites and it's getting now 7 o'clock. It's getting closer to 7. I'm getting nervous now that she's going to start getting tired, but I know I need to go and pick up my son. So there's no point like trying to force her to go to bed. She was happy coloring, but she clearly wasn't that hungry at the time, at least. So then out of the blue, one thing that you need to know about her, which is something that I need to work on, is that she loves like sweet things, chocolates, ice cream, all of the things. And we don't have a lot of this in the house because she would just eat. She can't just eat it. She needs me to help her get it. But she will not let go of asking me for these things, and I don't have the patience to say no all the time. Plus, it just creates a lot of, tension. So she asked me for an ice cream, and I said to her, we don't have any ice cream. Like, what are you talking about? She said, no, we have some in this other freezer. We have an extra freezer in the garage. And then I was like, oh, because we'd had friends over a week or 2 ago, and my husband had bought those tiny little ice cream cones from Trader Joe's, if you're familiar. They're like, 2-bite ice creams, and she'd remembered them. So I guess good on her. But I didn't really know we had them. I'd kind of forgotten about it. Anyway, so I was like, okay, fine. You can have something small. We usually let them have something sweet after dinner. And that is sometimes fruit and yogurt and granola. It's not always like literal sweets and desserts. But in this case, it was a little ice cream. I was like, okay, fine. Now she hasn't eaten a lot of dinner. But again, for me to punish her, it's a whole thing. Let me know what you would do in the comments down below if you don't let children have any kind of dessert until they've eaten all of their food. So I also don't want to override her natural satiety. Anyway, I digress. I give her the little ice cream. She chooses the one that she wants. She's very happy. Until then, she wants another one. And I was like, hard no, we're not doing this. So I said to her, no, we can't have any more. We've had one. We're done. And she naturally, as one would when you're told you can't do what you want to do, have what you want to have, had a complete breakdown. She's 3, it's late, we've had a long day, she's been at school, I'm on my own, even though I'm trying to be calm and kind and respectful, they know that my husband's not there and it changes the dynamic a little bit, but it's fine, everything is fine. And I know I still have to go pick up my son. I know that I have still 3 children all awake, not in bed. I'm not going to rest or relax until they all go to sleep. So I just know all the stuff building up in my head, and she had a complete meltdown. And what I ended up doing was I picked her up and I said to her, I know you really want an ice cream. She's going on and on. about how she wants another ice cream, da 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 da. I know you want that. We need to go and pick up Theo. Now it's like 7:25 or 7:20 or something. Okay, now I'm like, oh, I have to put her in her car seat. She's big. I mean, she's nearly 4. She's not a little baby. I have to like wrestle her in there. But there are just some non-negotiables that as a parent you have to do. And you have to be, like the point number 1, you have to be willing to go through the discomfort if you want to stick with your principles. I didn't even want to give her the first ice cream. So I already felt like I had kind of been stretched a bit far, and because she hadn't eaten any dinner, and I don't want her eating ice cream for dinner. But I was like, you can have 1, but you cannot have 2. I refuse. I was very calm, and I hugged her, and I kind of made her feel safe, but also remained my composure, which is very important, and kind of the point that I'm trying to make in a very laborious way. And I put her in the car. She let me put her in the car, which was amazing. And I think getting in the car, driving out, going to pick up her brother, that really broke the spell. That helped her kind of recalibrate. She's accepting now the fact that she doesn't have another ice cream, even though she really wants one and she hasn't forgotten. And she asked me for one this morning. So, she knows. But it kind of just changed the trajectory. Now, if we didn't have somewhere to go, I probably would have taken her out of the kitchen, taken her to her room, hugged her for a little bit, sat with her until she calmed down, maybe offered to read her a book. When they're going through this like hysterical emotional blowout, they're not going to be able to do anything, and they might not want to sit with you, and they might, but sometimes they just, I just find more often than not they will accept like a cuddle, but anyway, they might not want to, and you just have to be willing to be there with them, even if you're parallel, even if you're not saying anything, but keeping your body calm, keeping your voice soft and nurturing, and being strong and being there for them is really, really important. Then we got home, and I'm like, okay, now we really have to go to bed. It's 7:35, 7:40. Usually you go to bed between 7 and 7:30. This is late. And she was like, no, I want more food. I want dinner. And I said, oh, you already had dinner. I'd already offered her dinner an hour before this. And as it turned out, she ate another whole bowl of pasta. So she was obviously hungry, which is maybe why she wanted a second ice cream, and she just doesn't want to eat pasta. She wanted to eat it in the form of dessert. I get it. But she ate another whole bowl of pasta. And then I took her to bed. I read her a very rushed book. I did not want to read to her, but I did it. I read her a rushed book. And she went to sleep. Well, stayed in her room and she went to bed. And it was an interesting thing. The flip side of that is I could have gone like screaming at her. I could have just lost my cool. It would have been so uncomfortable for everybody. I would have felt so terrible. I would have thought about all the things and all the damage that I'm going to cause her and all the therapy she's going to need when she grows up because her mother lost her cool. So not to say that I haven't done that before, because, you do get pushed to the limit, and especially after a long week of parenting by myself. It was only Monday yesterday. By Friday, speak to me again. But hopefully, we can keep it together. The same thing happened this morning when she asked me for an ice cream as we were getting into the car for school, and she wants to eat an ice cream in the car at 7:30 in the morning. Just like picture the situation. No, sorry, it's not happening. And I always make her breakfast. Of course, she doesn't want to eat the breakfast. She wants to eat an ice cream. Now she knows that they exist. Her suspicions were confirmed, a whole thing. And I just said, no, we don't eat sweets for breakfast. We're going to eat something that's a little more savory. Not that she necessarily knows what savory is. And what did you know? She ate her toast. She ate her boiled egg, almost all of it. She was hungry again. And I just have to lovingly put down these boundaries, because it's also not fair for the other children if I'm giving the third one chocolate and chips and sweets for breakfast because I'm so tired and worn out because it's the third one. It's not fair that I was so strict with the first one and not with the third one, or like myself, I was disciplined, I guess. It's something I'm learning navigating multiple kids and solo parenting, but it's something that has really, really helped. So no timeouts, time-ins. Time-ins work so much better and will help weather that meltdown storm so much faster. And lastly, I promised you I would tell you things that I do to help tantrum-proof myself. The first thing, sleep. You gotta sleep. Especially when my husband's away, I don't sleep well, so I need to make a real effort to get my sleep routine on track, because otherwise I'm so exhausted, and obviously when you're tired you're much more likely to lose your cool. So as much as you can, I know that's really hard with small children, it's so difficult and different for everybody, but as much as you can, getting rest, getting sleep. Number 2, getting things done that would just be easier without your kids around, or getting the things that you need to do done without them or before you have to parent them. So I made dinner this morning so that we have dinner this evening. I work when they're at school. You know, I was doing things around the house that I really wanted to do. I was reading a book. Things like that will help fill me up so that I can give more, right? So it just makes logical sense. Obviously, it's tricky if you're solo parenting or you have a full-time job and then you have kids. Trying to get in some kind of time where you do what you want to do as an adult is very important. Playing with your children is wonderful, but can be very lonely and isolating if that's all that you're doing and you're not communicating with your own peers as an adult. Like, your child is not your peer and you are going to need a different kind of stimulation. So anything that you can do to fill yourself up will help you have more patience when it comes to challenging behavior in your kids. Number 3, if you are feeling like you're going to get super triggered, go and ask for help. Put yourself in timeout. Ask the neighbor, ask your spouse, ask a friend, someone to come over and just change the mood and change the vibes, because it is a lot of work. It is hard. They really do push your boundaries and you do need to ask for help before you do or say something that you would regret. And number 4 is to go outside, either just you or everybody, go for a walk, get some fresh air. I really do think the oxygen going to our brains changes us physiologically. You know, we always say, get outside, get fresh air, but like, what is really happening there? But I think it does bring down our emotions and neutralizes things so that we can be more even keeled. So getting outside, doing something active with them is really, really helpful, at least for me. So with all of that said, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and subscribe. Give this video a like so I know to do more videos like this. I'm not sure if I've done a toddler discipline video in a very long time, if ever, and I would love to be able to help you and make you feel less alone. Also, as I said at the beginning, I do offer coaching support. So if this is something that you're curious about, I would love to get on a call and talk to you about how we could work together. I would love to help you tap back into your intuition and feel confident in your parenting. So if that is something that's interesting to you, make sure you click the link down below. With all of that said, leave me any comments of future videos you would like me to do, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.